Hi there, Mark here again, and welcome to this video, which is part 2 of my build guide for the MF-01X chassis. It will eventually be a Ford Escort Mk2, but so far we've got this far with the chassis. As you can see, most of the chassis is together. We've got the prop shaft down the middle there, or should I say down the side. We've got the servo installed and the steering linkages. So let's get on with step 19, and hopefully by the end of this video we'll get this chassis up on its wheels. So parts 19 and 20 are making up the rear arms and attaching them to the chassis here, and as it shows, time to open up parts bag C to do these steps. I've already made up the one arm. It's really simple. Get these parts C19 and C11 and make sure you get them the right way around like this, and simply pop them together, and it's a 10mm screw in each of these two holes here. And as the instructions say, don't go crazy over tightening these, because this is very soft plastic and it'll be easy to strip the plastic out of those holes. So with those done, you just need to make up two of these, which are the rear upper arms. You need this little threaded bar here, and you need to thread on a BA17 ball adjuster, and yep, screw that in all the way. Well, I say all the way, it is quite tight, and you need to just follow the diagram there and make sure that the gap is 6mm between those two ball ends. And then step 20 is simply a case of attaching those. So make sure you get the alignment right, so the arms need to look like this, and make sure you're attaching to the end where the motor's going to mount. So that's going to go on there, and simply fix into place with BC2, which is a 3x46 screw pin. And notice I've put a little bit of grease onto this screw pin because these do tend to rust. And simply fix one on each side. Just a little tip here, as you can see, this is fitted, this is with just the screw pin, and if you look closely you can see that movement there. It moves up and down quite a lot. I'm not too happy about that. So all I've done is simply got a 3mm washer like this, and you might just about be able to see, but I've fitted it in there, in between the chassis and the end of the wishbone, or the A-arm, and now, I don't know if you can see that, but I'm trying to move that and there's hardly any movement at all. So yeah, simple washer solves that problem. Step 21 is making up the rear dampers, or pogo sticks as I call them, because there is no damping in these whatsoever. But anyway, if you're going to use these, it's really simple. Basically, get your body, slip the cap in, then you've got this kind of spring clip thing, goes like that. Then you've got your C5 spacer, put your spring on, then simply get your other end here and push it inside and give it a half turn, and that's your really amazing quality shock absorber stroke damper. And they're all the same, so you might as well make up the four while you're at it if you're going to use them. But I won't be using those because I've got these budget alloy oil-filled shocks from JKRC. You can see the number there. About 12 quid, so cheap as chips for a set of 4. So I'm going to be putting those on in the next step there, which is 22. So to fit each shock, all you need is BC1, which is the 18mm step screw, and you need these plastic parts A10 and A11. You can see them there, and the A11 goes at the top and the wider A10 goes at the bottom. And these shocks do come with O-rings just to space out the top and the bottom mount, because they are rather narrow on these. So yeah, that's why you're seeing those. Okay, so they're both fitted now, and yeah, they seem to work quite nicely. Nice bit of damping there. On step 23, you want to get your gearbox joints, or I call them the output cups, and you want your little BC5 O-ring, which is just pop that in the end, and like it shows, get a drive shaft or dog bone, give that a good push in, and put a bit of grease on these, and simply slot them into the rear diff there. You might have to turn it round a couple of times to get it located, push it right in to get both of those in. And as it shows here, you've got part C9, these long body posts, just one screw As you can see where they're attached there, one on each side, and the aerial holder if you need that, which is part C10. Step 24 is making up the rear axles. Basically it's the carriers for those. Make sure you get them right way around. They are left and right, so you've got this part F5, which is the one I've made up already. That's F5, and then you've got this part here, B13, that attaches to the top. So we'll just show you making up the other one. First thing I'm going to do is get the bearings into this part here, F6. So get your axle and pop in the O-ring. Then get your bearing or your bushing, pop that over and pop that through. And just pull that into place. And it only shows putting that one bearing in, but I'm going to put the other one in now. And just hold that with an R-pin so it doesn't fall out. Simply get part B12 and that just clips over the top there, and you just fix it with one screw in the top hole. Now if you've seen the other part of my build guide, you'll see that I'm replacing most of these 10mm screws with stainless steel screws, with the advantage they're also hex drive, so there's a much better purchase on the head of the screw. And when you've done, you should have the two left and right like so. Oh, and I forgot to mention there's a high and a low setting for step 24 and 25. Obviously this is going to be a rally car, so I've done the high setting. And don't forget to put that brass ball joint in the top, your 5mm ball in that top of the two holes on each of those, and onto fitting them on now in step 25. As you can see, I've done this side already. And one thing I've done is swapped the screw pin for this stainless steel shaft. It was a spare that I got in the box. I got a few of these. I haven't got the longer ones for the other end of the A-arms, but I have got these, so I'm going to use them. Simply a case of locating the bottom hole and pushing the pin through, or your screw pin. I'll just get the circlip on this if I can, and with that attached, get your dog bone, pop it in place. Then you need the top arm we prepared earlier. Just pop that on. And that's both sides fixed. And here we go, I've made a rookie mistake. You might have noticed, the eagle-eyed of you, that I've used the bottom hole and it should have been the top hole for the higher position, so I'm going to have to take the pins out the bottom and put them in that hole at the top on each side, and it'll be right then. Okay, so there it is with the correct holes used. So it's in the top of the two holes as it shows in the diagram, and I've just double checked and treble checked this, and I have set it now as it shows in the manual, and I've encountered another problem. I'll just get my ruler and you might see. If I put this flat along the chassis, you can see the pin there on this side, but you can't see the one on that side because the one is a lot higher than the other, and that's because this top arm is hitting on this lump in the chassis here where the prop shaft drive is. See, there's not one on this side, so that's allowed to move freely up and down, as you can see. But this one, that arm is hitting, so I'm just going to try and do something, cut down this ball joint a little bit here, just cut a bit of the length off there. I hope that clears, and also if I space out the back of that ball joint there, the brass ball joint, just a little bit, we might get that bit of clearance, so I'll just go away and have a play with it. Okay, so you can see I've cut this ball adapter down a little bit, so it's about 2 or 3mm shorter, and it seems to clear that bit of the housing now. And also I've put a little spacer on that ball joint, and that seems to have solved the problem. We've got kind of equal drop now, so there's something to look out for. But anyway, on to the next step. Step 26 is very simple, it's just making up the front arms. This is the right hand side. Be careful because they are sided, so you need C3 for the right and C4 for the left. C8's the same at the back, so you've got C8 and C4 for this side. As you can see, this slots together, it is keyed, and you need that little notch to the left hand side there, you can see that, and it's just a 10mm screw in that hole. In step 27 we're going to attach them now, and also fit in the two gearbox joints. Don't forget to put in that rubber O-ring and give it a good push down, one in each one of course. A bit of grease on here, and then insert them into the front diff. Then we need to fit on these parts C18 with the step screw into the front, like so. Then you need the 46mm long screw pin, and we're going to attach those lower arms. Okay, on to the next step, which is step 28, making up the front axles. As you can see, again, I've already gone ahead and made the first one, got a bit of practice in, but they're both the same. But make sure you get the left and the right way around, because you've got part F11 and this part F12. They are different, but the C-hubs are the same, those F1s. So yeah, make sure you get the right one for the right side. So we'll just show you making up this one. The first thing you need to do is get your F12, get it this way up, and then your brass ball joint needs to go in the outer hole from underneath, like so. And again, it shows putting the one bearing in, but I'm going to fit both bearings and then hold it all together with an R-clip. So it's best to put the bearing over the axle first. This time note that there are no O-rings going into these, like there was in the last step for the rears, but hey, that's the way it shows, so that's the way I'm doing it. Put the other one in, and then I'm just going to hold it with an R-clip, and then we've got to hold it together with these kingpins. Now I do recommend, after doing that one, that you put some grease on these threads. It's quite hard cutting round thread into this really hard plastic, so yeah, I'm definitely going to do that this time. It is surprising just what a difference a little bit of grease makes. So make sure we get the alignment correct. Just start that one off and then fit the other one just to get it all lined up. Because you don't want to screw these kingpins in at a wonky angle, because we're going to be in trouble if we do that. So just get each end started, and yeah, get them both done up, and that'll be the end of step 28. And on to step 29, which is attaching the front axles. As you can see, again, there's a high setting and a low setting, and we're using the high setting. So basically what you need to do is connect up your front arm in using that top hole and that top hole there to get that higher position. I've already done the one side and it looks like this, so just show you quickly how to do the one. It's very simple. Make sure you get left and right the right way around with the ball end pointing downwards. Basically just place that in the lower arm, and you can use the kit standard screw pin, which just push that through and screw that in, or like you've seen I've done the other side, I've got these stainless steel pins, so I'm going to put that in instead. Get your dog bone and locate that into each of the cups. Simply get the top arm, your step screw, and fix that into the top of the two holes. Simply clip on your steering arm, your tie rod, and that's the end of step 29. You should have suspension working up like this. We just need to get the shocks on next. Oh, and by the way, it does show putting grease onto the ends of the dog bones, you might see, but I haven't done that because I will be giving a good spray with this PTFE dry lubricant, and that won't attract the dust and the dirt. Step 30 is putting the front dampers together, which we already did earlier. But as you know, I'm using the alloy shocks, so not going to be using those. Step 31, we're going to be fitting those. That's such a simple step. I've already gone ahead and done that. As you can see, that's the front suspension all finished and working. And that's simply a case of attaching the top ones with these silver step screws, the longer ones, and these red F14 spacers. They go into those two holes at the top there, and the bottom is simply the shorter, darker step screw straight into that mount point there. Obviously same for both sides. And I've also whizzed on to step 32, which is attaching the front body post, which is C1, with the simple 10mm screw in there and in there. And to finish this step, it's just part C2, which is the front bumper, and it locates onto the 4 holes in the front here and sits on there. with 4 10mm screws. Step 13 is attaching your pinion gear, and that's this, the standard thing you get. It's an aluminium 16 tooth pinion. You need to get your grub screw, and we can see that on the end of my Allen key, and get that started in the hole. But as you can see, I've got this darker one on mine, so this is a steel pinion which will last a lot longer. It's 17 tooth, so it's going to raise the gear in slightly but not too much. So I'm going for that for longevity, that's the reason that's on there. So get your motor plate, make sure you clip that over and line up with the screw holes like so. Then you get part A8, which is called a pinion stopper, place that over, and then basically make sure that the pinion is pushed up against the end of this stopper, and then tool up the grub screw. In step 34 we're going to attach the motor, so you need these two 3x27 screws and this metal part BD8, it's a metal bracket. Just push those through ready and get the motor lined up into the gearbox now. And as you'll see, there are slots instead of round holes, so this is unusual on a lower level Tamiya or entry level Tamiya. You see they slide up and down in those holes. That means you can set the mesh, which I think you use that hole so you can see what the mesh is like between the pinion and the spur gear. So first thing I'm going to do is loosely get this connected. So I've just got the threads of the outside one in, and if I can just twiddle it about a bit, you'll be able to feel when the other screw goes in the hole. Okay, so that's loosely fitted now, just enough friction there to stop the motor from moving on its own. And we'll try and get this mesh set up. This is actually quite a tricky job because the screws are so long. It's allowing the motor to move without these screws moving this end. So yeah, it's really tricky to get this mesh quite right. Make sure you don't get it rammed in really hard because you're just going to wear the teeth away. But obviously you don't want it too far away, else it's just going to chew the ends of the teeth off. So yeah, it's a bit of a fine balance. And unfortunately I don't think you'll be able to see, but I think that's about right. You might just be able to see the teeth in there. It shows you here in the manual. You can see if the teeth are really pushed right in, that's too tight. It says it's ideal. I don't know if you can see on there, but there's a very slight gap. And obviously if it's just catching on the end, it's too loose. I don't know if you can see, I'll try and zoom in with the camera again. There is just a little bit of movement. I think that's about right, so we'll give that a go. To finish this step, you just need this part A9 and a 10mm screw, and it just covers over that inspection hole and stops all the dust and dirt from getting in. So just get that screw in, and it's on to fitting all the electronics, which I've just started. So as it shows in the diagram, I've fitted my ESC into this recess here. There's a diff in the chassis. There's also one at the back here where I've fitted the receiver. They fit in quite nicely, and then I've just fitted my switch on there with a bit of double-sided tape, and obviously connected it all up. So the chassis is almost complete. Last thing we need to do is put the wheels onto the tyres, which I have done. As you can see, I have put some glue on as well. And the important thing to note here is that they are sided. I don't know if you can see the tread patterns. So make sure you put the tyres with the lettering on the outside. And you might just be able to see here, there's a circle on the two which are for the left hand side. So yeah, those two are the left, and obviously the treads are opposite for the right. So all we've got to do is get these mounted on now. So I can take my clip out that's been holding it together, put in your little bar, get your hex adapters, and simply get that lined up and get one of your lock nuts on. So I'll just get the other three on now. There we go, chassis finished, and yeah, it's all seemed to have gone together quite well. It's very sturdy, very solid construction. The suspension seems to be about right, I think. Bit of damp in there, and all we need now is to get that bodywork done. So is the Escort shell, very roughly cut out at the moment. I've yet to properly have a go at that, so just sit it on, and there it is. This is going to be a great project, and I hope you follow along with the bodywork video. So as usual, all it leaves for me to say is thank you very much for following along. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye.